Have you ever wondered what the life of an anaconda is like? If so, you're not alone. The truth is that there are many things about this snake that we don't know. However, thanks to National Geographic, we were able to discover some secrets about the daily life of a newborn anaconda, so stay till the end to find out more. The sun was shining, and the day was just beginning. A female anaconda felt the first contractions and knew it was time for her babies to be born. But she didn't want just anyone to be aware of her offspring's arrival. So she slithered off into the trees to hide from prying eyes and ears. The little ones were making their way into the world. Soon enough, 30 baby anacondas had made their grand entrance. They were ready for their first adventure in the wild, but they had no idea of the challenges that awaited them. In the heart of South America, amidst the lush greenery and teeming wildlife, a new life was about to begin. The mother anaconda, with her instincts honed by years of experience, knew exactly where to take her babies to ensure their survival. She had chosen a secluded spot away from predators and human settlements, a perfect place to raise a family. Now, after giving birth, she needed to teach them how to survive on their own. It wasn't going to be easy, but she was up for the task. Before she could start her class, though, they had to get through their first night. This would be a test of all their newly acquired skills. The mother anaconda had taught her children everything she knew, but would it be enough to keep them safe? With the moon shining bright in the night sky, the young anacondas huddled close to their mother, listening intently to her every word. As the darkness deepened, they began their first lesson in survival, learning to navigate the treacherous world around them. Snakes are cold-blooded creatures, which means that their body temperature fluctuates depending on the environment they're in. In order to stay warm enough during the chilly nights, the baby anacondas needed to find a shelter before sunrise, and they had to do so without drawing any unwanted attention. Fortunately, their mother had chosen a great spot to give birth, and there were plenty of holes nearby that they could use as temporary homes. After huddling together for warmth, the baby snakes slithered into the safety of their burrows. They curled up and waited for the sun to rise again. As the first rays of sunlight peeked over the horizon, the baby anacondas emerged from their hiding places, blinking at the bright light. They had survived their first night, but the challenges were far from over. Now, they needed to learn how to hunt. The mother anaconda knew that her children had been learning from her since they were still in her belly. However, she also knew that they needed to practice. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to survive on their own. She decided to start with small prey such as mice and rats, and then work their way up to larger animals. The baby anacondas were eager to learn, and they spent hours watching their mother hunt. She showed them how to approach their prey undetected, how to constrict it and how to swallow it whole. Once the prey was secured, the mother anaconda demonstrated how to swallow it. Even though it was hard to believe, she had to remind herself that these were her real children, because sometimes it seemed like she was teaching a bunch of clumsy toddlers. They kept getting tangled up in each other, and their bodies weren't strong enough yet to hold down large prey. But the mother anaconda was patient. She knew that it would take time for them to learn, but she was determined to teach them everything they needed to know to survive. Days turned into weeks, and the baby anacondas grew bigger and stronger with each passing day. Their scales became smoother, their bodies more flexible, and their teeth sharper. The mother anaconda continued to teach them the ways of the world, how to avoid predators, how to find food, and how to protect themselves. As they grew, their diet changed. First, they started hunting rodents, then moved on to birds, and finally, larger prey like deer and capybara. The mother anaconda was proud of her children. They had come a long way since their first clumsy attempts at hunting. Still, she knew that their journey was far from over. They had to learn to survive on their own. So when the time came, she gathered them around her one last time. She told them that she loved them and that she would always be with them in spirit. Then she watched as they slithered away, each taking their first steps towards independence. You may think that being born an anaconda must be easy, but that's not true. When you're born into the Amazon rainforest, there are a lot of dangers that can take your life. For example, jaguars are known to eat anacondas, and they usually go after the juveniles. They prefer the smaller anacondas because they're easier to catch and they're delicious. Another predator that targets anacondas is the harpy eagle. These eagles are huge and have powerful beaks and talons that they use to hunt rodents, monkeys, and reptiles. If a juvenile anaconda is too slow or careless, it might become prey to this ferocious bird. Finally, there are humans. People living near the Amazon often kill anacondas because they fear them or because they believe that they're dangerous. Unfortunately, many times they're killed because people want to take their skin as trophies. You see, anacondas don't have any natural enemies other than humans. So if you're born an anaconda, it's very important that you learn to defend yourself. Luckily, anacondas are great swimmers and constrictors, so even if something tries to hunt them, they stand a pretty good chance of surviving. Once the mother anaconda gave her kids their last lesson, she disappeared. You see, anacondas live solitary lives, and the mother doesn't stick around after she has her babies. That doesn't mean that she's not a good mom, though. In fact, it means that she's doing what she's supposed to do. Anaconda moms have to disappear in order to protect their young. If she stayed with them, they wouldn't learn how to survive on their own. Plus, predators might target the mother instead of the babies if she sticks around. Anacondas usually mate when they're between 2 and 3 years old. However, males can start mating at 1 year old and females at 3 months. But even though they can mate at such a young age, most anacondas wait until they're adults to do it. Females are 3 times larger than males, so they're ready to mate earlier. Males need to grow bigger in order to be able to compete for a female. And let me tell you, competition is fierce. Male anacondas fight each other all the time just for the chance to mate. Sometimes they bite each other's tails, and other times they wrestle in the mud. Only the strongest and biggest male anacondas get to mate. Once the male anaconda manages to win the fight for the female, the mating can begin. Mating season for anacondas is pretty interesting. The male wraps his body around the female and holds on tight while he fertilizes her eggs. He also has to pump his body with air to make sure that she stays underwater. If she comes up to breathe, he'll drown. However, it seems that anacondas have evolved to solve this problem. During mating season, their lungs stop working, so they don't need to come up to breathe. This way, the male doesn't run the risk of drowning her. But why do anacondas mate underwater? Well, it has to do with their eggs. You see, anacondas lay their eggs in the water. This way, the eggs are protected from predators and can develop properly. After mating, the female gives birth to between 20 and 40 babies. She usually gives birth on land, and the babies are ready to hunt as soon as they're born. They only stay with their mother for a few weeks, and then they're on their own. The cycle of life continues, and the jungle is one step closer to balance. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to leave us a thumbs up. Thanks for watching. See you next time.